All right, guys, welcome to the FitTown's show. We're here for another episode. I'm Coach Tony with Coach Austin and Coach Bud. We want to talk to you guys today about the changes we're going to be doing at FitTown. We are shifting our programming. You'll see the changes in the names from the program BeachFit and FTX, changing to Move and Build. And this has really been a change that we wanted to do for some time now. We have certain beliefs in fitness, and those beliefs are evolving as they always should. And we did a podcast, Austin and I, in March of this year, talking about our beliefs in fitness that you guys should go back and check out. That'll go a little bit more into what we believe. But today we really want to just talk about why the change, why now, what will look different, what can we expect as these two programs move from BeachFit and FTX to Move and Build. So Austin, why should we do these changes?
Well, I'll start off with a little analogy that I gave to someone who asked me the question, why? And I'm not comparing anything we do to a doctor, but I did compare it to a doctor. And for this example, I'll just say a brain doctor. And I was like, listen, imagine your brain doctor. You had to go have a procedure. And he's like, hey, I have this way to get to the result you want. It's safer. It's more efficient. And you're like, that sounds great. And he's like, but I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing. That is kind of the way we're looking at this. It's like, we know that there's a safer, more efficient way to get people to results and actually create results. And I feel like we've been kind of stuck in our ways because we're kind of afraid to make a leap. And I think now we're taking that leap.
Yeah, we want your workouts to be a plus to your life. We don't want it to take away from your life. We don't want the workouts to be the focus of your life. We want to enhance your life. So we say these workouts are life enhancers. And we can do that by working out smarter, not harder. So, Bud, you like saying that it's a life enhancer. How do you see these workouts and how we're making these changes being a more of an enhancer to our lives rather than detracting from our lives?
So to start out from a historical standpoint, I think we all come from a CrossFit background, and CrossFit was really focused on intensity. And intensity is basically trying to get your members to do more work inside their allotted time. And that is a component of what gets you fit, but it's not the only thing that gets you fit. And it actually has some pretty significant downsides. So when we talk about high intensity programs, there's no doubt that they're what I would call a global life enhancer, which is somebody is getting fitter over time, right? Their body fat goes down, their biomarkers go up, but they're not really proximal life enhancers. And I think it's tough for people like us who are used to working out for fun to think about, but a lot of people aren't working out for fun. They're actually working out because they want to be better at the stuff that they need to do inside their day. So if you do a workout on Saturday morning, and then for the rest of Saturday, you were going to mow the lawn, you're going to hang out with your kids, you're going to go out to dinner, but you're so smoked that all you can do is sit on the couch. That workout's not a proximal life enhancer. It actually took away from your life in the short term. So the balance that we're trying to walk is our workout hard enough? Is it challenging enough to create the global change that we want for our members? But is it not so hard that it's not taking away from their lives on their day-to-day?
Yeah, one of the things you said, it's like your workout should give you energy to be more productive in your day, to be better at parenting, be better in your job, and not want to just go home and take a nap.
Absolutely. And I think there is a chemical benefit to working out as well. There's this antidepressant effect that we're all super familiar with. But again, if we step over that line and make something that's too complicated, we're going to start accumulating more negatives than we are positives.
Yeah.
I also think to add on to that, and it's funny for me to say because I feel like this is why so many people get hooked and addicted to this type of exercise. But I think there comes a point when you've been in it a long time, we're talking 12 years at this point we've been doing this. You start to think am I even working out to work out, or am I working out to compete with this imaginary thing, person, time, whatever it may be? And you're looking for ways to almost cheat the workout, not literally cheat by cutting your reps, but how do I get as efficient as possible to get through this workout instead of like, what is the benefit of this workout? Like you kind of miss the point of the workout in general to try to beat some imaginary thing. And I think for me, that was like, I kind of went through that probably like a year, maybe 2 ago, where I'm like, I don't really care to be like fast. Like I want to feel the workout be effective. And that's about all I need. Like I want to push myself. I'm not saying I'm not pushing myself. I definitely am. Like, and honestly, once you get to a point in exercise where a strength day becomes like the most challenging day, like you're doing something right. Like you're not looking for that like conditioning killer. Like those are easy, right? That makes sense. But if you can get to a point where a strength day becomes like, oh man, like this is going to be very tough. Like I think that's when you start realizing like the type of adaptations that we're trying to look for, which is good quality movements, good technique, slowing it down a little bit. But our main goal is you progressing in a way that's going to keep you in the game for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's key right there. It's playing the game for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote the book, The Spectrum Mindset, and that is all about getting out of that finite mindset of like, I need to win the leaderboard today. All right, I need to be at the top of the scoreboard versus like, you cannot win health by being at the top of Sugar WOD. You win health by being able to express your fitness for as long as possible, for as best as possible. When we do that, that's when we win, right? So we want to, instead of winning the game, extend the game to play it as long as possible. And again, talking about our longevity in this game, a lot of these changes come from our experience. We have seen so many people have to leave the game. We've seen so many people have to leave this game of fitness and health, not just the game of scoring high-end CrossFit workouts, but actually just leave their whole fitness plan behind because that they haven't been able, injury or whatever it is, they haven't been able to do it at all whatsoever. And so we always say like, a valuable player on the team is a player that's able and uninjured, right? Once you get injured, you are no longer valuable to that team. And so that's what we're really trying to achieve here is like longevity and playing an infinite game with our health.
Absolutely. And I think the distinction that you're making is really important, which is to say that the game is what takes place outside of the gym, right? We're training in the gym for the life that we're going to lead outside the gym, not training in the gym to put up bigger numbers on a barbell or put bigger numbers on Sugar WOD. We do believe that numerical improvement over time is going to correlate to better life outcomes outside of the gym, but we're not working out for the sake of working out. We're choosing to invest 1 hour a day to repeat return the other 20, or yes, to create return in the other 23 hours of the day.
Yeah.
And I think like for us, the metrics may have a shift in meaning, right? Like if like we all believe that, muscle mass is important and then the older you get, the more and more important that gets. And there's a very strong correlation to the amount of muscle mass you have to how long you live. And I'm not talking about like the humongous bodybuilders, like obviously they're a little different, but like the correlation of muscle mass and life timeline is extended like usually together. So when I think of numbers, like, rewind 10 years, like my thought process was, I just want to get the biggest numbers possible because I want to get the biggest numbers possible. And that was, I just thought it looked cool and I thought it was cool. And that's what my goal was. And then now it's like, okay, if I see my numbers continuing to progress, and I don't need them to make huge progressions, but I know if they're steadily increasing time on a timeline long enough, like the metrics that I actually need to matter, like my muscle mass, my tendon health, things like that, I can probably assume they're trickling up as well. And then that's kind of what we mean by the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. These are all things that are correlated with living a longer, more independent life. And ultimately, the three of us have massive responsibilities outside of our jobs at the gym. And we want to be able to fulfill those responsibilities for as long as possible. So I think, in a sense, a lot of these changes come from us growing up and realizing that the workout is not the most important hour of our day. And in fact, it might be the least important hour of our day, given all the other stuff that we have to do.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to add before we kind of like jump into some details. I was listening to this podcast and I thought it was like the coolest conversation they were having. I actually want to do like a specific post just about this, but he was like, the idea of being all in versus all consumed. I was like, oh my gosh. Because like I know a time in my life when my fitness and health was all consuming. Like it was all I thought about. I went home and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I got beat on this workout. Like how dare they? Yeah.
And the last thing you see, like when you close your eyes, is muscle ups or snatches or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And all in is, it sounds very similar, like all consumed and all in. But the way they just separated the two was all in is when you're in the hour, you are committed to improvement. You're all into that one specific hour for that one specific goal. But the rest of the 23 hours of that day, it doesn't matter. Like you said, it's probably the smallest part of your day. It could be an awesome part of your day, and we hope it's like one of the best hours of your day, but it is not your day. It's just a little section of it. We want to maximize it. We want you to be all in that time frame, but then you have to move on and you have to do the duties that are asked of you the rest of the day. All consumed means those duties are hindered because you're still hyper focused on the workout, the eating, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like thinking, I'm like, okay, if I start saying this to people, like they're going to be like, well, I thought like recovery, nutrition, all that's super important. And I'm like, yeah, it is. But you need to create a lifestyle that matches all that. So you don't have to be consumed by it. It's just what you do. And this is not easy, by the way. In the beginning, it might feel like it's consuming your life because you're trying to figure it out. But your goal is to construct a life that like, that's just how it flows. And then you can be all in on that hour and then everything else is in place and it's easy to go. But if you're struggling with it, you're struggling to be consistent on the workouts and you're at home and you're like, oh, I missed another workout. I'm going to, lose all my gains, whatever. That's just consuming. It's adding more stress. And then that's not a great path to go down.
This is something that you and I had talked about, not in the context of working out, which is the idea that being generous to yourself is actually just maximizing the present moment. And that's what we'd like our members to do, is to be generous to themselves and focus their time on one thing and one thing only. So inside that hour, really commit, because that's the thing that's going to yield the greatest return. But we're not asking them to spend the other 23 hours of the day thinking about working out.
Man, I'm glad you guys just put words to my last 13 years of my life. Jeez. Man, I always was stretching for the words of how do I put that into words of before CrossFit, I was
BC.
BC before CrossFit. BC in my life, I was at Gold's Gym, bench pressing a lot, doing a lot of upper body. But there was a time where it was consuming, but I started to hate it. And I was like, I cannot do this any longer. I need to find something that actually motivates me to come to the gym. Found CrossFit, found group exercise, having the team aspect where I used to play team sports all my life, having that back again got me reinvigorated for fitness again. And then in the first, let's say 5 years to 2017 of CrossFit, I was so consumed by it. It consumed everything where I wanted to perfect the double under, and I wrote a book about it because I was so obsessed with perfecting certain movements like that in CrossFit so I could get to the top of the leaderboard. And then in that consumption, I was breaking down my body bad, and I could feel it. And I had that question again, the same question I had BC before CrossFit was how much longer can I do this? I don't see a future in doing this. And it wasn't until I really surrendered to the programming and just kind of got present in those moments, got present in my hour every day here, and kind of let go of being consumed by it and just being all in. I love that term. That's when I felt like, hey, I'm just surrendering to the programming. And I haven't been a part of programming for years, right? I've always just done the programming and, been an athlete and just loved it. And so now I'm at a point too where I'm like, I want to enjoy these. I want to be able to do this for the rest of my life. So what does our program look at at FitTown from here out, right? And so I'm 40 right now, and I'm not saying, well, this is programming changes when I hit 50 as well. And we change it every time I get older, or we get older as a group. But we're just going to keep getting smarter, I think. And that's what I'm saying is we're going to keep looking at what are the best ways to get healthy. And that's what we're going to put into practice each time. So for me, personally, I'm really excited as an athlete because I can finally see that longevity again. Just doing these workouts for the past month, I can feel it in my body. I'm able to do like weighted dips again that I used to do and love at Globo Gym. I can actually do those again with full range of motion, which I haven't done in years. I'm just really excited to do some of these movements again and just feeling really stronger than I have in years. And then as a coach, I'm really excited to bring down that risk when it comes to gaining reward. I think, we've always provided reward for our clients, but be able to do it in a way where there's no longer that heightened risk where they are getting hurt or we're having to put up barriers to our gym because we can't have someone try certain lifts without so many personal training hours ahead of time. Like, I'm really excited to get the rewards without so much risk involved. So what are like your guys' like favorite things, personal, like as athletes in this change, and then as like on the coaching side as well?
You want to kick off?
Well, so I think I'll start with from a coaching standpoint, and that is that it's so easy to describe what we're doing using the words that we've assigned to each gym. So the gym formerly known as BeachFit, now known as Move. Somebody asks what that is. I tell them they are 45-minute boot camp style classes designed to get you moving every day, because we believe that moving every day is incredibly important for fitness. And then somebody asks about the artist formerly known as FTX, now Build. What's the deal with that? They are hour-long strength and conditioning classes designed to help you build a wall between you and chronic disease. So simple, right? We're not defining things by what we aren't. We're not saying, well, we're not CrossFit, but we're not boot camp. Mm-hmm. We know exactly what we are. So as a coach, that's what I like. And then as an athlete, I'll confess to having not done as much of the Move programming, just because I program Build right now. So that's really something where I believe a good chef eats his own cooking. Mm-hmm. But it's not wanting to miss days, because every day has a place in the progression, and feeling like I know when the benchmark tests are coming and I want to perform well on those tests and express what I've built. So I really am just excited about the fact that every day matters and every day builds on the day that happened before it.
That's awesome. It encourages you to show up.
Absolutely.
Because you know you're on a path. You don't want to get too far off the path. You want to stay on it and keep going. And that's also to say that someone brand new into a cycle or progression that we're doing couldn't just hop in and get benefits from it, right?
I think one of the really cool things about the Build program is that we're not testing all our benchmarks at once, the way you would see maybe in like a traditional powerlifting or weightlifting program. Because the tests are staggered by every 2 weeks, you're always in the middle. So that means that if somebody is looking to transition from Move to Build or just hop straight into the Build program, they are exactly up to speed with everybody else, but they will be rewarded for their consistency.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, my answers are pretty close to the same. As a coach, I think there's a couple of things I'm really excited about. Oh, there's a lot of things. The first one is we used to have to play the game a lot, and one of my least favorite things is coaches around the world, I'm not saying our coaches, like around the world, blaming individuals for their ego. It's like, well, it's your ego that's like causing that. And it's like, sure, to a point maybe, but also you're the one putting it on the platter for them. You're the one telling them that this is the stimulus we're looking for today. This is the movement we're doing today. No one wants to sit around with a PVC pipe, right? Like I totally understand where CrossFit like push that narrative of like, well, if they can't do it with a barbell yet, just do it with a PVC pipe. Name a person who wants to spend $200 a month to hold a PVC pipe. It's zero. No one wants to. And I understand the benefits of it. And as a coach, you're in that place of like, man, that hurts, because it's like, I don't want you to hold a barbell and do what we're doing because you're not ready and you're going to hurt yourself. But also, I don't want you to feel like such an outcast that you don't enjoy yourself and you're not going to come back tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So you're like in this happy, like medium, well, not happy, you're in the sad medium position. Yeah. Middle ground where you're like, what do I do? And typically you let them add a little bit of weight, not a lot, but you're like, well, let's just go empty barbell. Let's just go a little bit. And like, it ends up creating a lift and a technique that you're not proud of. And of course, over time they can progress. I'm not saying they can't progress. They definitely will. Most if they stick with it long enough. But fighting that battle for 12 years with people, it's very fatiguing.
Well, you also have to ask, okay, what was that movement meant to provide for that person anyways?
Right.
Explosiveness, coordination. Okay, are there other ways we can achieve that?
100%. That's what I was going to get to. Is like a couple of the moves that come to my head is like a strict handstand push-up, or just getting upside down, a barbell snatch. Like, yes, of course, I could argue till I was blue in the face of what the benefits could potentially be of that, but I could also 10x that argument by saying, hey, you could just do this instead and stay 10 times safer. Mm-hmm. Is it fun? Of course they're fun movements to do. Are they the best movement to have in a group class when there's 20 plus people working out next to you and there's one or two coaches? I would argue that. So as a coach, I'm really excited about coming back to the basics when it comes to our strength progressions on the build side. And then on the move side, just even refining a little bit more what that means. As an athlete, Bud and I talked about this, I'm excited about the potential of me actually progressing, which when you've been in it as long as I have, it's hard to progress unless you hyper focus on progressing. So what would that mean for me? Like if I want to PR my back squat right now, and let's just rewind 2 months ago and programming was how it was, I would have to do additional work. So I couldn't just show up to group class every day and hope my back squat goes up. It just won't happen because I've created enough adaptation over these years that my number is at a certain number, and without dedicated work to it, I'm not gonna hit it. It just won't happen. It doesn't matter how consistent I am, how serious I take my recovery. But with our new system, the progressions are there. Everything makes sense. It builds upon each other week over week. And I'm I'm probably going to, if I stay consistent, get close to PRs or hit PRs. And I haven't done that in a long time. So that's what I'm really excited about. And Bud and I say this all the time. We don't want to create progression or improvements by accident. We want it to be very on purpose. And I think that's what this does. But yeah, I think those are my two things. It's just simplifying to create better results and keep people safer and in the gym longer. And then for me, it's hey, I'm doing something consistently enough that I'm actually going to see improvement and not just, feel like I'm just going through the motions because the class is going through the motions. I can actually get something out of it. And for the past 2 to 3 years of my fitness, it's just been I'm just kind of spinning at the wheels. I've just created enough, I've created enough fitness over the years that I seem generally fit, but I'm right where I was, year after year. And when I hyper focus on something, I get better at it, but I don't want to be having to continually do that,
Yeah.
I want to get better at Olympic lifting. I have to stop every other thing and just Olympic lift.
So Tony made this point about athletes leaving. And I think when you made the point, you were a little bit more focused on athletes who are leaving due to injury or leaving because they feel like they can't do it forever. Athletes will also leave because they get bored. They stop seeing results. At a certain point, the amount of volume required to progress in a certain modality is no longer there in class. And so they are just maintaining. And previous to that, we didn't really have something for those people because we weren't doing progressions. So of course they would leave, or they would go try powerlifting, or they would go do a triathlon, or go pick up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever it is. But with the progressions that we've built here, I'm confident that if athletes on the build side are consistent, they will see sustained, not necessarily fast, but sustained progress in our 8 benchmarks year after year.
Yeah, awesome. I think it's really important to mention that, talking about the specialists, we're just trying to build the foundation. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at this specimen right here next to me. So in the past year, you did Olympic lifting competition. And then now in the future, we have a half marathon signed up for, right? I mean, this guy can do anything, but I'm joking. He can do anything. I'm not joking there. He is awesome. But that's what we want for our members. We want the foundation of strength and conditioning built upon and with nutrition. And when you have those things, we want you to feel like you can specialize into a competition, specialize into a Spartan race, High Rocks race, half marathon, full marathon. But we don't need to do that in class and try to cover every single base. I think that's where a lot of CrossFit gyms go wrong specifically is that movement might show up in the open. So then that movement needs to be in our program all year long. We can't just put it in January. And they skip the foundation to specialize in the certain movements.
I agree. I think an issue is when you try to get good at everything, you wind up getting good at very little. And even in people who have goals of getting good at multiple things, you see that there's a seasonality to it where Austin running his race training looks a lot different than Austin getting ready for a weightlifting meet. There's maybe all the same components are still there, but the pie chart of how often and how much of those components are showing up is very different. We do have a little bit of that seasonality there in our program where we're testing a benchmark every 2 weeks, one strength benchmark followed by one conditioning benchmark. So if you show up for a month of classes at Build, you'll see one strength benchmark and one conditioning benchmark. So that is present a little bit. So for example, our 1 mile run is coming up in 3 weeks. You're going to see more running. There is a little bit of seasonality there. But over specializing doesn't lead to good health outcomes. I remember a mentor of mine talking about running triathlons, and he was just trying to go longer. And then he found out one day that he couldn't jump up onto a 20-inch box. Or if you think about the other extreme of power lifters or weightlifters who are incredibly strong, but they also carry around a ton of body fat and they're not particularly healthy. So we don't get great health outcomes for specializing. We get great health outcomes for being generalists. That said, if our program becomes so general that people aren't making progress, I think we've failed a little bit. So we're always playing in this balance of, are we moving towards enough different things that people are staying healthy, but are we not doing too many things that people stop improving?
Awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about, just real quickly, guys, wrap up here, but just talk about a little bit more about the programs individually.
Yeah.
And because I think people that have made a certain program, BeachFit or FTX, a big part of their life and wondering what's going to change or what can I expect to be different. Let's just hit on that real quick and wrap it up.
Yeah. So Move, I was joking with someone we're changing everything, but that's a lie. We're Move, previously BeachFit, is not changing much. So it's still the 45-minute class. The only thing we're going to hyper focus on is keeping you moving longer. So shortening the time that we're at the whiteboard briefing, maybe not as many 2-part days, but we're trying to get you moving for at least 24 plus minutes of that day. I think 24 is going to be the minimum, and then it goes up from there. If there's ever a day shorter than that, you can almost guarantee there'll be a finisher or something attached to it. As far as movements and things like that, or types of workouts, it's not changing. So that one stays very consistent. And yeah, I mean, the numbers show it. It's become one of the, people's favorite programs. So
yeah. And I think we've had, you mentioned the separate strengths. We started to throw those in there as a way to kind of, make it more exciting and make it kind of more like the FTX side, when it's it can be its own thing. And I like thinking of it as conditioning with strength infused or strength intertwined. It's very elegantly into your conditioning.
And I think, we've been talking about this, but I'm guilty of almost creating the problem of that, which is we have these athletes who are so strong, so conditioned, and they're asking for more. And because they're asking for more, and I'm not 100% comfortable sending them over to what was FTX at the time, because of the biggest difference at the time was a humongous skill gap. It wasn't oh, you can't do it. But to do it, we encourage you to do 2 to 3 personal training sessions. You're going to have to learn how to barbell snatch, overhead squat, you name it. There's so many high skill movements that you don't do in BeachFit. So it's not just an easy, hey, walk over to the other building, get into it. That's not how it works. Now it is. So now I feel comfortable pulling it down a little bit. Move is going to be that program that, if you want to get a little bit more conditioning, you want to sweat for longer, it's going to be perfect for you. But it's also going to be very good for the people who just come off the street and jump right in. And then if they start looking for more, you get to the weights on the sumo deadlift day and you're like, this isn't heavy enough or whatever. Heck, go right next door. You are going to be able to step right into that program and do exactly what you're doing over here and just continue making progress. Yeah. And that's what I love about it. I love that it literally builds upon move. And before I did not feel comfortable telling people to go over, and now I'm 100% on board.
That's awesome. I agree. And that's one of my favorite things as a coach. And I think it's, our job to always give what clients need rather than they want. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're providing that with that fluidity between the two programs. You mentioned a lot about build already, but is there anything you wanted to add that we didn't touch on when it comes to the structure, the programming, what people can expect from changes from FTX?
So for people that are in the gym already, have been taking FTX, are now taking build, it's not going to look particularly different. Austin and I pointed this out. We were definitely getting our feet underneath us with the program for the first couple weeks. But at this point now, if we were to change the program in the way that we have and not say anything, I'm not sure that people would notice a difference. Or people would be like, hey, we haven't done snatches in a couple weeks. Or I don't see the advanced option for a strict handstand push-up anymore. And that's by design.
Darn.
Build is 3 strength focus days per week, 3 conditioning focus days per week, and we test a benchmark once every 2 weeks. If somebody's trying to sell it to their friends, it's a badass strength and conditioning program. I'm really confident in it. I would put it up against anyone else's program. I think there's a ton of benefit to be had for people from all levels of fitness. Yeah, I'm behind it fully. That's all I got.
That's awesome. That was the best line-liner you have, man. And it's funny because I don't know, I always felt, I'm just going to say this, as a CrossFit gym, I felt kind of above the typical strength and conditioning gym. I thought we were getting results that the strength and just I don't know, where we did appeal to everyone. We were just GPP, general physical preparedness. We could get anybody in the doors and help anybody. We could help the grandkid next to the grandma in CrossFit. And strength and conditioning couldn't do that. So I don't know why I had that bias, but I did. And now I'm seeing that, no, there was really some magic there if you do it right. And I feel like we have the right people in place, the right minds in place, the right experience in place to make that happen with what I think is a strength and conditioning facility.
Absolutely. And CrossFit, credit where credit's due. The 1 hour fitness class is the best fitness product for a ton of people. And to have popularized the 1 hour fitness class in a world where there was LA Fitness with your headphones in, run for hours, and body pump is incredible. And we all came from CrossFit, and I think all still love it in a lot of regards. The biggest issue is something we've talked about is how do you take the pure ideology of CrossFit and turn it into a palatable consumer product? So we are not a CrossFit gym, we are a strength and conditioning gym, and we've evolved away from that. But it was absolutely a necessary stage in our development, both for all of us as individuals and as a gym, to get into CrossFit and learn everything from it. That would agree more.
Yep. Learn and build. All right.
There we go.
All right, we'll sign off there, guys. We'll bring you guys more information on the programs. If you have any questions, just send them to us. All right. Any of our names, Tony, Austin, Bud at FitTown.com. Not all one. Those are 3 different emails. But Tony at FitTown and Austin at FitTown and Bud at FitTown. We'll love to hear your guys' questions on this. All right. Until next time. See ya.